Marriage first was ordained by God. If we were to study from Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 to 28, and Genesis chapter 2, verse 15 down to verse 23, you'll see that God ordained marriage between a man and a woman. At that inception, we do not know whether there is counseling, but specifically, there are advices parent gives to the bride that going out to marriage. An example could be between the family of Rebecca, brothers and their fathers, who was about preparing to get married to Isaac, the son of Abraham. So when you look at it from the Old Testament context and it came to the New Testament context, Jesus himself instead attended a marriage at Cana. So specifically it shows that he plays a very specific role in that marriage relationship. But the Bible says that was the first place wine was served when Jesus turned water into wine. But based on the question asked, why is counseling important in marriage? There's a breakdown as a fallout to marriage today. People go into marriage for either the wrong reason, while others go into the marriage for the right reason. So the church, where we are especially focused, see the need to be able to counsel couples who are about going into the marriage relationship. Because some see the marriage relationship as it's all about sex. It's far, far more than that. If there is no relationship between the two partners, and then no relationship between the two partners and God, there will be a breakdown. So in the course of their preparation, pastors are involved in counseling them, telling them the nitty-gritty of what they are going to see in the marriage relationship. Some will always see marriage as a bed of roses, but no, there are thorns. There are sweet part of it, there are bitter part of it, which has to do with personal personal interest going up either between the man or between the woman or the lady and the young man going into marriage. So the church see the need that pastors, marriage counselors are involved in counseling intending couples before they go into the marriage relationship. These are human innovations, compatibility. Innovations from what sense? Because when you say you must be compatible to someone before you get married to her, if you continue to do that, it will not work out well. But there are certain areas that may be looked into, whether they are truly compatible or not. But in this past, it wasn't so. It wasn't so. We were ignorant about certain things in this past. Maybe our forefathers who had entered into marital relationship. It could either be by certain medical terms. That's my understanding. But in the reality of life where we are today, that is where the issue of compatibility comes to take effect and rule in the affairs of the marital relationship. So if we're looking at it from the medical point of view, then there is a need for compatibility. So that if they enter into the marriage, there will be what we call foul play, or there will be what we call deception in marriage, or there will be what we call lies in marriage, or there will be what is called the language, I am not compatible to you, so why I made a mistake of marrying you in the first place. So in the course of that, that's why we go back to the first question, which is counseling is important, so that the two of them, where there is love, where there is understanding, and all this rudiment brought in place together, and then following biblical principle, then the two couples or the two intended couples will see the reality before they jump into the marriage. And at the end of the day, if by God's grace they agree together, what would be wrong by saying they are compatible? They each have their own strengths and weaknesses. They are actually compatible to be married. But where people haven't been able to counsel to be counseled to know the reality of what the marriage is, that is where the language comes up. I was not compatible for you in the first place, so we better part ways, which is not what God intended at the beginning of marriage, at the creation of or at the ordination of marriage. Several counseling has been done on singles, teaching has been done on singles and marriage, and counseling has been done one-on-one with intending couples. And advice has also been given those of them who have come to show intention that they are about going into marriage. As a result of that, we are advised that yes, it is proper for them to know their medical status or their health status. From which angle? Testing their genotype, testing their hepatitis status, HIV status, and other medical areas that are very vulnerable when they go into marriage, and it may affect them negatively. So that advice is always given. Like for me as a person, before intending couples jump into the proper courtship, I always use my pulpit to advise, please, those of you who are about going into marriage, why not show intention? Then we'll advise on what to do. And when they come to me that, yes, this is what we are planning and we're looking at it for doing the next possible years, or either 2 years or 3 years or 1 year, I will advise, okay, do you know your genotype? Do you know your blood group? Do you know this? Do you know this? Do you know this? They said, yes. Said, are you sure you've tested? Okay, go back, test it again, let's know. The essence behind this is the key critical issue is the genotype. AAAA, they are compatible. That takes us to the second question again. AAAS, somehow they are compatible. But ASAS, somehow they are not compatible. Reason behind, if God blesses them with children, there's a possibility that one amongst them or all of them, if they have 2 or 3 or 4, they could be sickle cell, and that will sap the resources of the family. So as a church, we wouldn't want a situation where this intended couple jump into marriage and then they discover that they are all AS, and then after knowing they are AS, it becomes a problem in the marriage, and then the marriage is dissolved. It's better the relationship ends before they go into the marital relationship than for them to just go in without knowing their what? Genotype. And which is also very important today. The church accepted what the medical report has given. And if medical report comes and states that yes, these people are not compatible with them, we wouldn't wait them. But if they insist, they are on their own. The church has nothing to do with that. So we always advise that intending couple should know critical areas, their genotype, before they begin to think of going into the marital relationship. That is where counseling comes to play. As we see in John chapter 10, verse 11, Jesus said, I am the good shepherd. A good shepherd should be able to tend his flocks well and then teach them both from the biblical point of view, not only the biblical point of view, teach them on what is obtainable in the medical aspect, and then involve medical personnel who will be able to assist in also advising them on that same angle too. My advice is boiled down as a pastor or pastors that are listening. They should use their pulpit to be able to teach their members earlier before they go into the marital relationship. It prepares them. Several areas I have served, I know members, you too have seen, have heard that I said this, I said this, I said this. Reason is that they are supposed to use by biblical point of view in teaching, and then have forum for singles where you give advice on this area. So the most important thing that we need to know is that teaching them and then advising them. Not only advising them, involving medical personnel to also teach them on these things before they go into full courtship that culminate at the end into marriage. I grew up with this notion that someone who has sickle cell anemia, if he's not able to survive the first 10th birthday, then he dies at 10. If he passes 10, he dies at 20. If he passes 20, he dies at 30. If he passes 30, then life is in the hands of God. So I grew up with that notion, but I came to realize that there are people who have gone over 40, 45, 50, and they are still living. Who have sickle cell anemia, they are still living. It shows that this life is in the hands of God. Now, going back to what you said earlier, some call them Obanji. That was in the days past. Like in our own tradition, later on, they will say this one came from the water. So it's better taken away and thrown into the evil forest. But when we grew up and came to realize that, no, it's God, maybe it's a mistake somewhere, little did we know that some of them are suffering from sickle cells anemia. Now, my advice is we should treat one another as brothers because we have the breath of life, the breath of God inside of us. And since we have the breath of God inside of us, we were all created in the image and likeness of God. Little did we know that there is genotype, and genotype in it there is AA, AB, AS, SS, and all these things. But since we know those who have SS suffering from sickle cell anemia should not be seen and treated like trash, but we should have sympathy and compassion towards them because of the kind of suffering they go through sometimes, because of change of weather too. We should be able to pray for them, we should be able to encourage them, we should be able to partake in their situation. If we have the resources, we should be able to support them in getting some medical things that will assist them live long, even if they mean they will live for the next 1 or 50 years because they are shown love. They could go more than that. So why is supposed to show love to them? Not to what do I call? Not to stigmatize them the way HIV and AIDS came into Nigeria and then spread all over Plateau. They have been stigmatized when they discover their children are SS. They show love. So family members should also rally around than victimize those who are tested to be SS and having sickle cell anemia. Before I tell you my name, my stand is better known, earlier known than not knowing. We have medical facilities, hospitals, clinic, lab available. If you're a young man, you don't know your genotype, go for test, know your genotype early before you even begin to think of going into any relationship. When you know it earlier, it helps you to be prepared. And then when you know your genotype, if you're AS, then ask the medical practitioner, what is the meaning of this? He or she will interpret it to you and then tell you what to do. That is my stake on that. Thus, therefore, my name is Domnan, Samuel David, pastor with the Church of Christ in Nation, and ordained pastor, and privileged RCC secretary.